The Galactic Council chamber was a grand, domed amphitheater, its walls adorned with intricate carvings and luminescent displays that shifted and pulsed with otherworldly energies. The most influential alien rulers from across the known galaxy sat in tiered seats, their robes and ornaments glimmering under the soft radiance of the chamber. At the center of the chamber, Ambassador Xyloth, a tall, slender being with luminous eyes and delicate features, stood before the council. His voice was measured and calm as he presented the latest intelligence reports from Earth. Honored members of the Galactic Council, the situation on the planet known as Earth has become increasingly concerning. In recent cycles, the human species has made remarkable advancements in fields such as energy production, material science, and space exploration. Their technological progress has been accelerating at an exponential rate, far outpacing our previous projections. Xyloth paused, allowing the council members to murmur and exchange troubled glances. He continued, "What is most troubling is the pioneering work of one human scientist in particular, Dr. Emily Donovan. Her breakthroughs in fusion energy, nanomaterials, and propulsion systems could, if left unchecked, upset the delicate balance of power in this sector of the galaxy." An aged, reptilian counselor leaned forward, his scales glimmering. "Explain further, Ambassador. How could the achievements of a single human pose such a threat?" Xyloth nodded respectfully. "A valid question, honored counselor. Dr. Donovan's research has unlocked the potential for humans to develop compact, high-efficiency fusion reactors, a technology that could make their species energy independent and less reliant on our controlled resources. Furthermore, her work on advanced nanomaterials and metamaterials has led to breakthroughs in areas such as shielding, computational power, and even anti-gravity propulsion." The chamber erupted in a chorus of concerned murmurs. Xyloth raised a hand, silencing the din. If these technologies fall into the hands of the humans, they could rapidly expand their sphere of influence, potentially challenging our established trade routes and strategic positions. Worse still, they may develop the capability for interstellar travel and exploration, venturing beyond their home system and disrupting the delicate equilibrium we have maintained for centuries. An imposing insectoid counselor leaned forward, her compound eyes glinting. "And what of their military capabilities? Surely this human scientist's work could be leveraged for weapons development as well." Xyloth nodded gravely. "That is a grave concern, honored counselor. The fusion reactors could be adapted for powerful directed energy weapons. The nanomaterials could be used to create advanced armor, shielding, and even autonomous drones. And the anti-gravity breakthroughs could lead to revolutionary spacecraft and missile systems." The chamber descended into a cacophony of anxious voices, the counselors debating and gesticulating wildly. Finally, a booming voice silenced the din. "Enough," bellowed a massive lupine counselor, his fur bristling. "What do you propose we do about this human threat, Ambassador Xyloth?" Xyloth stood tall, his expression grave. "Honored counselors, I believe we must act swiftly and decisively to curtail the human species' technological progress before it spirals out of our control. Their rise poses an existential threat to the delicate balance of power we have maintained for millennia. We must find a way to slow their advancement, to hinder their research, and to keep them confined to their home world, at least until we can devise a more permanent solution." The counselors murmured in agreement, their eyes narrowing with determination. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance, and they would do whatever it took to protect their dominance, even if it meant subjugating an entire species. As the debate raged on, unbeknownst to the Galactic Council, a young American scientist named Emily Donovan was hard at work in her laboratory, oblivious to the looming storm that was about to descend upon her world. The Galactic Council chamber was thick with tension as the alien rulers debated the fate of the human species. Ambassador Xyloth stood patiently, observing the impassioned arguments that raged around him. "We cannot afford to let these primitives continue their unchecked technological advancement," growled the massive lupine counselor. Their kind has a history of reckless expansion and disregard for the established order. We must act quickly to contain them before they become a true threat to our way of life. A humanoid counselor with iridescent skin raised a hand. But what of the potential benefits of cooperation? If we could harness their creativity and ingenuity, it could lead to breakthroughs that could elevate all our civilizations. Psylocke interjected smoothly. Honored counselor, that is a tempting proposition, but the risks far outweigh any potential rewards. The humans have shown themselves to be unpredictable, volatile, and prone to violence. We cannot trust them with the knowledge and power they are on the verge of attaining. The reptilian counselor nodded in agreement. Ambassador Psylocke speaks the truth. Humanity's history is littered with countless wars, atrocities, and environmental devastation. Do we really want to empower such a species and risk them wielding those capabilities against us? Tension hung thick in the air as the Galactic Council members debated the appropriate course of action. Finally, the imposing insectoid counselor raised a clawed limb, silencing the room. I believe I have a solution that addresses our concerns while avoiding outright conflict. All eyes turned to her as she continued, rather than attempt to halt the humans' progress through force or overt interference, which could provoke a violent backlash. We should instead seek to subtly manipulate and misdirect them. Let us send our most skilled diplomat to Earth, one who can infiltrate their society, sow discord, and carefully undermine their technological development without their knowledge. Psylocke's eyes gleamed with understanding. A wise proposal, honored counselor. If we can covertly sabotage the humans' most critical research and technological breakthroughs, we can keep them in a state of arrested development, unable to pose a true threat to our dominance. The lupine counselor rumbled in agreement. Yes, this has merit. And if the humans become aware of our intervention, we can simply claim it was the result of their own internal conflicts and rivalries. No need to dirty our hands directly. The humanoid counselor still looked uneasy, but grudgingly nodded. Very well. But I still believe we should explore avenues for peaceful cooperation, if only to better understand these humans and their potential. Psylocke bowed respectfully. That is a reasonable suggestion, honored counselor. I shall endeavor to do both, to subtly undermine their progress, while also maintaining the facade of cultural exchange and technological collaboration. He paused, his expression darkening. For the sake of the galaxy, we cannot afford to let humanity's ambitions spiral out of control. The Galactic Council members murmured in agreement, the die now cast. Psylocke would be their agent of control, tasked with keeping the human species in check by any means necessary. As the meeting adjourned, the ambassador's mind was already whirring with schemes and machinations, each one designed to ensure that humanity's rise to power would be halted before it could truly begin. Little did the Galactic Council know, however, that their plans were about to be complicated by the determination and ingenuity of one remarkable human scientist, Dr. Emily Donovan. Ambassador Psylocke's sleek, angular spacecraft glided silently through the upper atmosphere of the planet Earth, its advanced cloaking systems rendering it all but invisible to the primitive sensors of the humans below. As it approached a bustling metropolitan area, the ambassador leaned forward, his luminous eyes narrowing with focus. Begin deployment of the infiltration drones, Psylocke commanded, his voice a soft hiss. A series of tiny, insect-like robotic craft detached from the mothership, scattering across the city like an invisible swarm. The first phase of the operation is now underway. The ambassador murmured to himself, a hint of satisfaction in his tone. It is time to begin sowing the seeds of discord among these humans. Psylocke's spacecraft touched down in a secluded park, the ground trembling slightly as its anti-gravity systems cushioned the landing. The ambassador emerged, his robes flowing gracefully as he strode towards a waiting ground vehicle, a sleek, futuristic sedan provided by his undercover operatives on Earth. As he slid into the driver's seat, Psylocke allowed himself a small, triumphant smile. The Galactic Council had entrusted him with a critical mission, and he was determined to succeed. Humanity's technological advancement would be halted, one way or another. The ambassador's first stop was the campus of a prestigious university, where Dr. Emily Donovan and her team of researchers were conducting cutting-edge experiments in fusion energy and nanomaterial engineering. Thyloff mingled effortlessly with the scientists, posing as a wealthy philanthropist interested in funding their work. "Your research is truly remarkable, Dr. Donovan." Thyloff purred, his eyes flickering with feigned admiration. "I must admit, I am in awe of the potential your breakthroughs hold. Perhaps we could discuss ways in which I might assist your team in accelerating their progress." Donovan, ever the skeptical scientist, eyed the alien diplomat warily. "Your interest is certainly appreciated, Mr. Thyloff, but I must confess, I'm a bit curious about the source of your funding. Are you representing a particular corporation or organization?" Thyloff chuckled softly, raising a placating hand. "My dear Dr. Donovan, I am simply a private investor with a passion for scientific advancement. I have no ulterior motives, I assure you. I merely wish to contribute to the betterment of humanity through the support of visionary researchers such as yourself." Though still unconvinced, Donovan reluctantly agreed to accept Thyloff's generous offer of funding, unaware that the ambassador's true intent was to subtly undermine and sabotage her work. As Thyloff departed the university, he activated a hidden communicator, relaying a series of coded instructions to the swarm of infiltration drones dispersed throughout the city. "Begin Phase 2 of the operation," Thyloff murmured. "Target the fusion reactor test facility and the nanomaterials laboratory. Disrupt their progress by any means necessary." Across the city, the tiny drones sprang into action, infiltrating research facilities and laboratories, interfering with experiments, corrupting digital records, and sowing confusion among the human scientists. Thyloff's plan was in motion, and he was confident that he could keep the humans' technological development firmly in check. What the ambassador failed to anticipate, however, was the sheer tenacity and resourcefulness of Dr. Emily Donovan. As strange malfunctions and setbacks began to plague her team's work, the brilliant scientist grew increasingly suspicious, her instincts honed by years of rigorous scientific inquiry. Donovan began to meticulously investigate the issues, determined to uncover the root cause. Her probing soon revealed the presence of anomalous energy signatures and subtle glitches that seemed to defy rational explanation. Realizing that she was likely the target of some unseen sabotage, Donovan's eyes narrowed with determination. "Whoever is behind this," she muttered, "they've made a grave mistake in underestimating me." With a renewed sense of purpose, Donovan rallied her team, marshaling their collective talents and resources to counter the mysterious interference. Little did she know that her actions were about to set her on a collision course with the Galactic Council's agent of subterfuge, Ambassador Thyloff. Dr. Emily Donovan hunched over her desk, brow furrowed in concentration as she pored over the latest data from her fusion reactor experiments. Despite the generous funding and resources provided by the mysterious Mr. Thyloff, her team had encountered a series of baffling malfunctions and setbacks that threatened to derail their progress. "There has to be a reason for these anomalies," Donovan muttered, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she cross-referenced sensor readings and diagnostic logs. "Something is interfering with our work, but I'll be damned if I can figure out what." A soft knock at the door drew her attention, and Donovan looked up to see one of her graduate students, a young woman named Elise, standing in the doorway. "Dr. Donovan, I think I may have found something you should see," Elise said, her voice tinged with uncertainty. It's a bit hard to believe, to be honest." Donovan waved her in, her curiosity piqued. "What is it, Elise? Don't keep me in suspense." The graduate student stepped inside, clutching a tablet in her hands. "I've been analyzing the data from our nanomaterials research, and I've detected some anomalous energy signatures, readings that don't match anything we've encountered before." Donovan's brow furrowed as she took the tablet, her keen eyes scanning the information displayed on the screen. "Describe what you're seeing, Elise." Don't hold back." Elise took a deep breath. "Well, the readings suggest the presence of some kind of advanced extraterrestrial technology, almost as if there's an invisible, external force interfering with our experiments." Donovan's eyes widened, and she leaned back in her chair, a million thoughts racing through her mind. Extraterrestrial technology. "Are you certain about this, Elise?" The graduate student nodded, her expression grave. "I've double-checked the data a dozen times, and the evidence is undeniable. Whatever is causing these problems, it's not of this world." Donovan sat in stunned silence for a moment, her mind whirring. If Elise was correct, then the implications were staggering. Could it be possible that their mysterious benefactor, Mr. Xyloth, was somehow involved in sabotaging their research? "We need to take this to the authorities," Donovan said, her voice firm. "The government needs to be made aware of this situation immediately." Elise's eyes widened in alarm. "The government? But Dr. Donovan, what if they don't believe us? Or worse, what if they try to take over the project?" Donovan's expression hardened. "I don't care, Elise. If there is a genuine threat to our work, to our planet, then we have a responsibility to share this information. The risks are too great to keep it to ourselves." Gathering her resolve, Donovan strode out of her office, Elise hurrying to keep pace. As they made their way through the bustling campus, the scientist's mind raced, piecing together the clues and trying to make sense of the bigger picture. Someone, or something, was actively trying to undermine humanity's technological progress. And if Elise's findings were correct, that meant they were up against an enemy far more powerful and advanced than any they had ever encountered. Donovan's determination only grew stronger as she approached the university administration building, her steps quickening with each passing moment. She had a responsibility to warn the world, to rally humanity against this looming threat. Little did she know, however, that her actions were about to set in motion a chain of events that would forever change the course of human history and bring her into direct confrontation with the machinations of the Galactic Council's most cunning agent, Ambassador Xyloth. Dr. Emily Donovan's warnings about the presence of extraterrestrial interference in her research fell on deaf ears. The university administration, while initially alarmed by her claims, ultimately dismissed them as the ramblings of an overly paranoid scientist. "Extraterrestrial technology," scoffed the provost, an older, balding man with a perpetual frown. "Really, Dr. Donovan? You expect us to believe that some advanced alien civilization is actively sabotaging your work? Forgive me, but that sounds like the plot of a cheap science fiction novel." Donovan's jaw tightened, her frustration palpable. "I understand how absurd it sounds, but the evidence is undeniable. We are dealing with a threat unlike anything humanity has ever faced before. The stakes are too high to ignore this." The provost held up a hand, silencing her. "Be that as it may, we cannot simply go around making wild accusations without concrete proof. Until you can provide us with irrefutable evidence, I'm afraid I cannot justify involving the authorities or disrupting the normal operations of this university." Dejected but undeterred, Donovan left the provost's office, her mind racing. If the university administration refused to take action, then she would have to find another way to expose the truth and warn the world about the impending danger. As she made her way back to her lab, Donovan's eyes narrowed with determination. She would need to assemble a team of like-minded individuals, scientists and engineers who shared her concern and were willing to take on this challenge, regardless of the risks. Elise, her graduate student, was the first to join Donovan's cause, her own sense of unease about the situation driving her to stand by the brilliant scientist. Together, they began discreetly reaching out to colleagues and former classmates, carefully vetting each potential recruit to ensure their discretion and commitment to the mission. Word spread quickly through the close-knit scientific community, and soon Donovan found herself at the center of a growing underground network of researchers, all united by a shared determination to uncover the truth and protect humanity's future. They worked tirelessly, pooling their resources and expertise to devise increasingly sophisticated countermeasures against the mysterious interference plaguing their experiments. Hidden within their own labs and workshops, they constructed specialized sensors, shielding systems, and even experimental eye-driven algorithms to detect and thwart the unseen sabotage. As Psylot's drones continued their relentless efforts to undermine human technological progress, Donovan's resistance network fought back, using every trick and innovation at their disposal. They managed to temporarily disrupt the ambassador's operations, forcing him to escalate his tactics and deploy more advanced infiltration methods. The cat-and-mouse game played out in the shadows, with Psylot growing increasingly frustrated as his plans were repeatedly foiled by the resourcefulness and ingenuity of Donovan's team. The ambassador realized that he had underestimated the determination of these humans, and that drastic measures would be required to regain control of the situation. As the conflict intensified, Donovan and her allies found themselves in a race against time, desperately trying to stay one step ahead of the alien diplomat's machinations. They knew that the fate of their species hung in the balance, and that the future of humanity depended on their ability to uncover the full extent of the extraterrestrial threat and find a way to neutralize it. Little did they know, however, that the Galactic Council's plans for Earth were about to take an even darker turn, as they prepared to dispatch a formidable invasion force to subjugate humanity and seize control of its technological advancements by force. Ambassador Xylot's frustration mounted as his carefully orchestrated plans were repeatedly thwarted by the resilient network of human scientists, led by Dr. Emily Donovan. Despite his best efforts to sabotage their research and undermine their progress, the resourceful team had managed to stay one step ahead, continually adapting their countermeasures to counter the alien diplomat's machinations. Pacing in his private quarters aboard the cloaked spacecraft, Psylot's luminous eyes narrowed with a mixture of anger and concern. "These humans are proving to be far more tenacious than I anticipated," he hissed, his long, spindly fingers drumming against the armrest of his chair. The ambassador had already escalated his tactics, deploying more advanced infiltration drones, and even attempting to manipulate global political tensions to sow discord among the nations of Earth. But Donovan and her allies had proven to be formidable adversaries, their ingenuity and problem-solving skills consistently outmaneuvering his efforts. Psylot knew that he could not afford to fail in his mission. The Galactic Council was growing impatient, and the stakes for the future of humanity, and the delicate power balance of the galaxy, were too high to allow this threat to continue unchecked. Reaching a decision, the ambassador activated a secure communication channel, his voice even and resolute as he addressed the Galactic Council. "Honored counselors, I regret to inform you that my subterfuge efforts have been only partially successful. The human scientist, Dr. Emily Donovan, and her network of allies have proven to be far more resilient and resourceful than I had anticipated. They have managed to uncover and counter many of my sabotage attempts, and I fear that stronger measures may be required to bring them under control." The lupine counselor's image flickered to life on the display, his fur bristling with agitation. "Unacceptable. Ambassador Psylot, we entrusted you with this mission because of your reputation for cunning and discretion. Surely you have not been bested by these primitive creatures." Psylot inclined his head, his expression placating. "I understand your frustration, honored counselor. However, these humans possess a level of creativity and problem-solving ability that has taken me by surprise. They are not as easily manipulated as I had hoped." The insectoid counselor's image appeared next to the lupine's, her compound eyes narrowing. "Then perhaps it is time we consider more direct methods of intervention. If your subtle sabotage is not enough to halt their technological progress, then we may need to take stronger action to ensure the security of the galaxy." Psylot nodded slowly, his mind racing with possibilities. "I believe you are correct, honored counselor. The time for subtlety may have passed. If the humans cannot be contained through covert means, then we may have no choice but to resort to a more overt display of our power." The Galactic Council members exchanged grim looks, the weight of their decision hanging heavy in the air. Finally, the humanoid counselor spoke up, her voice laced with reluctance. "So be it. You have our authorization, Ambassador HFYSci-Fi, to do whatever is necessary to bring this human threat under control. Failure is not an option." HFYSci-Fi bowed deeply, his expression unreadable. "It will be done, honored counselors. I will not rest until the human species is firmly in check and the delicate balance of power in the galaxy is restored." As the communication channel closed, HFYSci-Fi turned his gaze towards the distant horizon, where the blue-green orb of Earth hung suspended in the void. A cold, calculating smile spread across his features. "Dr. Donovan," he murmured, "you and your kind have made a grave mistake in defying the Galactic Council. Now you will face the full weight of our might." The ambassador's fingers flew across the control panel, his mind whirring with the details of his new, far more audacious plan. The time for subtlety had passed. It was time to unleash the full force of the Galactic Council's power upon the unsuspecting human species. In the Galactic Council chamber, the alien rulers gathered, their faces etched with grim determination. Ambassador HFYSci-Fi stood before them, his posture straight and his voice unwavering as he laid out his audacious plan. "Honored counselors, I have carefully considered our options, and I believe the time has come for us to take decisive action against the human threat. Our previous attempts at subtlety and manipulation have failed to halt their technological progress, and we can no longer afford to let their ambitions continue unimpeded." The lupine counselor growled, his clawed fingers drumming against the armrest of his chair. "So what do you propose, Ambassador? How do you intend to bring these humans to heel?" HFYSci's expression remained calm and unwavering. "I believe we must take a more direct approach. We must dispatch a formidable invasion force to the planet Earth, one that can subjugate the human population and seize control of their most critical technological advancements." A murmur of agreement and consternation rippled through the chamber. The insectoid counselor leaned forward, her compound eyes gleaming. "And you believe such an overt display of force will be sufficient to cow these humans into submission?" HFYSci nodded, his fingers steepled in front of him. "I do, honored counselor. The human species, for all their ingenuity, are a fragmented and divided civilization. They lack the coordination and resolve to mount a unified, effective defense against a coordinated, overwhelming assault." The humanoid counselor frowned, her iridescent skin shifting with unease. "But the risks of such an operation are substantial. If the humans were to somehow resist our invasion, the consequences could be catastrophic. Their technological capabilities, if unleashed against us, could upset the delicate balance of power in the galaxy." HFYSci inclined his head. "I understand your concerns, honored counselor. However, the stakes are too high to allow the humans to continue their unimpeded advancement. We must act now, before their capabilities grow beyond our ability to control them." The Galactic Council members exchanged troubled looks, the weight of their decision palpable in the air. Finally, the lupine counselor spoke, his voice a rumbling growl. "So be it. We will authorize the deployment of a sufficient invasion force to subdue the human population and seize control of their most critical technological assets. But we must proceed with caution, Ambassador HFYSci-Fi. Failure is not an option." HFYSci bowed deeply, a triumphant glint in his eyes. "It will be done, honored counselors. I will personally oversee the operation and ensure that the human threat is neutralized, once and for all." As the ambassador departed the chamber, the Galactic Council members fell silent, the gravity of their decision weighing heavily upon them. They knew that the fate of the galaxy now hung in the balance, and that the outcome of this confrontation with humanity could forever alter the course of history. Back on Earth, Dr. Emily Donovan and her network of allies continued their desperate efforts to uncover the full extent of the extraterrestrial threat and devise countermeasures against it. Oblivious to the Galactic Council's decision, they remained steadfast in their determination to protect their species and their homeworld. However, their vigilance was about to be tested like never before, as a vast alien armada, led by Ambassador Xyloth himself, began its ominous approach towards the planet, intent on crushing the human resistance and seizing control of their technological advancements by force. The stage was set for a cataclysmic confrontation, one that would pit the ingenuity and resolve of humanity against the might and ambition of the Galactic Council. The future of the Earth and the entire galaxy hung in the balance. The skies above Earth blazed with the fury of 1,000 suns as Ambassador Xyloth's massive invasion fleet descended upon the unsuspecting planet. Colossal alien warships, their hulls gleaming with advanced energy shielding and armaments, filled the horizon, casting the world below in an eerie, otherworldly glow. On the ground, Dr. Emily Donovan and her network of allies watched in stunned disbelief as the alien armada breached the planet's atmosphere, their advanced sensors detecting the powerful energy signatures and the sheer scale of the invading force. "My God," Donovan breathed, her hands trembling as she stared up at the menacing ships. Xyloth wasn't bluffing. The Galactic Council is truly committed to crushing us. Elise, Donovan's graduate student and closest ally, gripped the scientist's arm, her eyes wide with terror and determination. "What do we do, Dr. Donovan? How can we possibly hope to defend against an onslaught of that magnitude?" Donovan's jaw tightened, her mind racing as she considered their options. "We have to rally the nations of the world, Elise. This is no longer just about our own research and technological advancements. It's about the very survival of our species." She turned to her team, her voice resonating with urgency. "Everyone, listen up. We need to get the word out, fast. Contact every government, every military, every scientific institution you can reach. Tell them the truth about the extraterrestrial threat, and urge them to put aside their differences and work together to defend our planet." The researchers sprang into action, fingers flying across keyboards as they composed desperate messages and made frantic calls, desperately trying to raise the alarm and coordinate a unified global response. Meanwhile, Xyloth's invasion force pressed relentlessly forward, their advanced weapons systems locking onto strategic targets across the globe. Cities and military installations erupted in a blaze of energy weaponry, the human defenses utterly outmatched by the sheer technological superiority of the alien invaders. Donovan watched in horror as the destruction unfolded, her heart sinking with the realization that their pleas for help might be too little, too late. But even in the face of such overwhelming odds, she refused to surrender. "We can't give up," she declared, her voice ringing with defiance. "If we're going to die, then we'll go down fighting. Gather every resource, every scrap of technology we have, and prepare to defend our home with everything we've got." Inspired by Donovan's unwavering spirit, the Resistance Network sprang into action, their laboratories and workshops transformed into hastily fortified strongholds. They worked tirelessly, harnessing the full extent of their scientific ingenuity to develop makeshift defense systems, experimental weaponry, and even prototypes of advanced spacecraft, all in a desperate bid to turn the tide of the alien invasion. As the battle raged on, the skies above Earth became a cauldron of fire and fury, with the human defenders fighting back with every ounce of their strength and resourcefulness. Xyloth's invasion force, though technologically superior, found itself facing an enemy that refused to be cowed, an enemy that struck back with a tenacity and creativity that the Galactic Council had never anticipated. In the end, the clash between the invading aliens and the defenders of Earth was a clash of civilizations, a battle for the very future of the galaxy. And as the smoke cleared and the dust settled, it was the humans who emerged victorious, their ingenuity and unwavering determination having proven to be the decisive factor in the conflict. Xyloth and the Galactic Council, stunned and humbled by the outcome, were forced to acknowledge the error of their underestimation. Humanity had proven its worth, its potential, and its resilience, and in doing so, had forever altered the balance of power in the galaxy. As Dr. Emily Donovan stood amidst the ruins of their devastated planet, her eyes shining with a mixture of pride and grief, she knew that this was only the beginning. The road ahead would be long and arduous, but humanity had taken its first steps towards becoming a true interstellar power, one that would shape the future of the cosmos for generations to come.